Hey guys, Dexter here. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, BIM and GIS, what's all the buzz about. So we'll have technical consultant Tomislav presenting for us. So first, we'll just go through a bit about RedStack. So we're a leading provider of design technology and services to engineering and architecture professionals. With over 20 years of local experience, we provide the expertise, training, and support to help companies realize the full potential of the design technology. The RedStack mission is to deliver industry-leading services to the engineering, construction, and architecture communities. We work with clients and companies of any size nationally and abroad. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Dexter. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tomislav Golubovic, and I am an ex-Autodesk employee now working with RedStack. My background is a lot of drafting in piping, oil and gas, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, working on onshore, offshore. I've worked with Boeing. I've worked with the RAF, so I have over 20 years experience in the industry, and then almost half of that would have been with Autodesk as well until late last year. So today we're going to have a look at the relationship with BIM and with GIS data, namely the relationship between Autodesk and Esri. So for any users who do use InfraWorks to generate some of their models, this will be quite informative for you, as InfraWorks last year had a relationship with Esri, which was obviously as a result of the relationship between Autodesk and Esri, in the ability of linking data into InfraWorks from their website. And then we're going to have a quick look towards the end of this about the information that you can send back to ArcGIS as well. So with the 2020 release of the software, a lot of updates have come through. But you know, over the last couple of years, that relationship was a one-way kind of street. But now with InfraWorks in 2020, that's going to be a two-way street. So before we sort of get into the nitty-gritty of InfraWorks and that relationships, we'll have a look at the current way of working. And as I just mentioned, some of the tools now just basically mean it's a one-way street. So you're importing CAD files or other GIS files, DWG, DXF shape, DEM models, TIFF files. Again, a lot of this is manual, and you're not sometimes you can't be on top of all of the information that's coming in and then sort of getting pushed out to somewhere else. And this again might be for people on this call. It could be just a current issue that they're going through, and it's again just a way of just sitting down and having a look at the workflows and trying to get the best out of it. But sometimes, unfortunately, that workflow might only be sort of a one-way street. So why change? So we want to keep the data in the center of the project, or the center of the information there. We don't want to have to keep taking it out or bringing it back in, or emailing it or Dropboxing it, or doing it in a fashion that means you're going to lose track or lose control of where all of that data lives. So like I said earlier, there's a relationship between Autodesk and Esri now. So they see that it's going to be positive in regards to the planning phase of the project. So from the word go, we can grab that data from a central source during the design phase. So once the project is won, we can either choose to reuse that data. So for some people, the word feed might apply, where it stands for front-end engineering and design. And then once you get into the design phase, we can just reuse that. And then subsequently, this is big as part of Autodesk message, is using that design data in the building and the construction phase of it. So with their 360 products, we can take the Revit model, for example, or the AutoCAD file, or maybe even the Inventor model, take it out to site and grab that data and reuse it from that central source. So you don't have to worry about walking around with lots of pieces of A1 paper or A3 paper and finding out that what you've got in your hand is not what is required out on site. So again, this sort of central source of data is in the middle of this whole project. And then subsequently, we take that into the operation as part of the life cycle of that project. So, you know, if you place a door or place a window, or if you know what is happening with the concrete structure on that project, we can use it as part of the operations and sort of get into the whole Internet of Things as well, if that applies to the project. And then that way, again, we're not losing data. We have this sort of central source of truth as well. So from that, we then sort of have a look at GIS informing BIM and BIM fueling GIS. So traditionally, the views of GIS and BIM is that GIS is managing the capital portfolios, while the BIM process are used for delivering the capital projects. But maybe we can have a look at it differently and try and see the benefits of bringing those two technologies together and those data sources, because in turn GIS is informing BIM and BIM is fueling GIS. So this opens up all the discussions about integrating GIS and BIM and expecting accelerated project timelines, reduced costs, resilient infrastructure, and then even smarter cities. So if you're a big LinkedIn user, there's a whole lot of talk about having smart cities, and this is sort of, I guess, the beginning of it. And also collaboration. So collaboration for me personally is just a big thing. It's just one of the things that I've believed in for years, is having that data and not having to export it or to dumb it down for whatever reason. You have that data there, and then you can reuse it and give better access to people, and then subsequently make better decisions from that as well. So you don't want to be, like I said in the previous slide, you don't want to be playing around with pieces of paper and out of date information. We do have the technology. And when I say we, it's as in us, as in the end users. So with this Autodesk and the Esri relationship, that can help obviously with any of the projects and all the decisions that we need to make for it. So Autodesk philosophy was that there were inefficient ways of working was the reason for bringing Autodesk and Esri together. So they do believe that it's going to bring out positive outcomes for all of that. So similar to the image before, we have the plan, design, build and operate phase of all of the projects, and you can see there on the left we sort of have the GIS side of it, and then on the right hand side the BIM side of it. So just a brief overview on Arcgis. So it's a geographic information system. So that's what the GIS stands for working with maps and geographic information. It is used for creating and using maps, compiling the geographic data, analyzing that data, and sharing that data using the maps and the geographic information in a range of applications, and managing that information in a database. And you can see here that we do have, there are Arcgis, there's desktop applications, there's apps for your tablet or your phone, and there are APIs for that as well. So the system does provide the infrastructure for making those maps and geographic information available, be it through an organization, maybe even in a community, or just openly on the web. So if anyone has played around with Arcgis, you'll see all of that information off their website. So the apps, so it does talk about, we do have, like I said before, we've got the desktop apps. It might be on your mobile device or even just on a web browser. So there's a whole collection of integrated location-based apps that are available to you wherever it might be. So, you know, it might be as part of the project, you're working in the office, whether you're in Adelaide or Melbourne or Singapore or London, and then you can have that information at your fingertips, on be it on an iPhone as shown on that image there, or on a tablet, or even on a laptop out on site. So that way, again, this whole sort of the word of that single source of truth, which I do talk about a lot, and again, personally, I'm a big fan of, just because then that way the data is in one central location. So we can take it, like I said, take it to the field and back inside the office or within a community. But I think most people on this webinar are going to be using it sort of, I guess, within an organization, or maybe even a project. So even if it's something like a joint venture, so then that way you can reuse the data for the whole project there as well. So this is kind of a graphic talking about those people that would be using it. So individuals, so if you're a sole trader, working in a team, or working in a department, or even an organization, you can see they're using those web services. We can generate all of that data and send it back out to ArcGIS. But then ultimately all of that data is going to come in when we're doing the project. So this is that BIM side of it. So the data management, the visualization, the analysis, in particular as well, which we'll go through in a second. I'll just demonstrate some videos on that. The planning and design phase, and making decisions, and obviously taking actions depending on those decisions themselves there as well. So coming up next, I'm going to do some videos. I'm not going to be doing anything live here, just because sometimes some of these things do take a little bit of time. So these videos I will talk over and just give you a better understanding on how that relationship is working within the Autodesk product, and particularly obviously InfraWorks there as well. And then we're going to have a look at generating the data, grabbing that data, utilizing it, and then like I said, even for the 2020 products, we can send that data back if you really need to. So I'm just going to play this video. Now, what we want to do is grab some content. So what we're adding is a shape file from the computer. So this shape file is going to be the traffic accidents, and it's all contained inside a zip file there. So once we select it, and then the contents, so off the ArcGIS website, you can tell it what's inside that file. So these are all just going to be shape files. And then we're just going to give it a title. So this is part of Denver, and we're just going to call it Denver Demo Traffic Accidents. And then we're just going to grab that title and then copy it and make it as part of the tags for this information. So once it does get uploaded, so again, like I said, we're not doing this live just because sometimes these things can take a bit of time, but it's just basically making the map, and we can have a look at that map. So as we zoom in, so it's creating a feature service for that layer. So now that we can look at it in the map, so you can zoom in and see the data, and these are all of the accidents within certain areas. And as you hover your mouse over it, so you can see any of the information that came in through it. So this might be, again, for your particular project, there could be a whole bunch of information in there that you need to represent on all of these maps. So then now what we can do, we can save that map. So this is all under your account. So you will need an ArcGIS account for this, obviously, as well. So we can save this to reuse this information later on as well. So once we get it into ArcGIS, we can analyze it. Okay. So we're going to create a new map, and it's going to be for the Denver region as well. Okay, and then looking at their own content, so within your account there, we can see we've selected all of the stations for Denver. So again, for anyone within Australia, we could populate maybe a map of all of the train stations within a particular city or a particular area. You can see there again there is some information in there as well. Okay, and then what we can do is do some analysis on that. So once we come up, go to the analysis tab. So we're using a proximity. Now, we want to have a look at what, around those stations, what are we looking for to measure? So we've got driving time, but maybe for this example, we got driving distance, walking distance, but we're going to look at walking time. So anything from around those stations, that's a 10-minute walk. So then when it does go through and do the analysis, you can see there the stations sort of have that color around them showing where you would end up with a 10-minute walk. Okay, so this might be handy for maybe planning where the stations are. It could also maybe be handy for maybe public transport usage. And then that way we can get an idea on, again, what are the metrics that we need to measure for the result that we need to get to. And then ultimately, we can use this information within InfraWorks once we move into the next phase of the project. So going from Arcgis, we now get into the InfraWorks side of things. So if you're still on 2019, or even if you've upgraded to 2020, the workflow is going to be the same. We look at the data sources pane, and there's sort of a little globe looking icon there where it's just, as you hover your mouse over it, says adding the ArcGIS data. So what we need to do is sign into that. And then once you've signed in, you get presented with a similar window to what you had in the browser. So there's all of the content, all the models that you have in your account there on the left-hand side. Excuse me. And then as you click on each of the data, it'll present itself in the model there as well. So we've got the traffic map there, but the feature type as well is something that you can select. So you can see that the window for that Denver area is selected. We can zoom in and out obviously as we need to, and it shows the traffic accidents for that area. So again, we're just reusing that data that we had in ArcGIS, and then we're going to have a look at reusing it here within InfraWorks there as well. So you can see the previews, and then under the feature types, so this is inserting those traffic accidents as points of interest inside InfraWorks. Okay, so for I apologize, it looks like my PowerPoint crashed. Okay, so as I said, for anyone familiar with InfraWorks, when you insert data, it has to be assigned to something. So these traffic accident spots can be inserted as points of interest. And then once you say insert in the model, so you can see the doesn't like that movie. Once it does get inserted, and then you will see those points of interest inside InfraWorks. So just let me fast forward that a little bit, and I'll just pause that there. So you can see the points of interest. So these are all those traffic accidents that happened in that Denver area inserted into InfraWorks. So you can see there visually it does give you a good representation on the data coming in. And then that way, again, coming from a central source of truth. So ultimately, with the 2020 product, so we can now send that back. I'll just have to let that play out, but I'll just pause it there. So with 2020, you do have the ability to send that back as well. So if you decide to make any changes within those models, you can send that information back. So there will obviously be specific requirements for that. So you know, maybe it's a fire hydrant, or maybe it's a bus stop, or maybe it's some sort of other civil infrastructure that you need to move, or to relocate, or to remove, or to do something with it, and then we can send that information back, and then ultimately someone else is going to be able to reuse that. So I do apologize, my PowerPoint was crashing, but yes, so like I said, in 2020 we can bring that. So if you haven't upgraded, I guess, to InfraWorks 2020, and it is something that you feel you could utilize, then now is maybe a good chance just to bring your InfraWorks models up to 2020 and send that data and information back. Okay, so this is the saving back. So there is obviously some settings we have to do there to enable the editing, but if I just fast forward a little bit there, so you can see we can move the manway and that underground pipeline there. So it looks like it might be a sewer or a stormwater, and then that way we can save. We can do what we need to do within the InfraWorks model there. And then with those data sources, so we just select them. So the proposed sewer manholes, and then you can see there that it does save it back there. Okay, and then when we go back into Arcgis, you can see those changes do happen there as well. So that brings us to the end of my presentation, and I'll hand back to Dexter.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. And if you have any more information, you can contact us at solutions@redstack.com.au. Thank you. Bye.